So Easter was a few weeks ago. We have a pretty well-established home church kind of a situation going on. One of the grandmas got to play Easter Bunny by sneaking over and creating an egg hunt in the backyard. My dad taught a Sunday school class over Zoom for all of the congregation, and it was pretty great. One of the other things that happens on Easter is that theater nerds get really excited about Jesus Christ Superstar, which is pretty understandable. I used to mainline Phantom of the Opera as a child, just put that right in my veins. I have yet to encounter a rock opera that doesn't make me happy. I have never seen Jesus Christ Superstar, so this is not going to be a review of it or anything like that. That would be both unfair and boring. Although I might be willing to research it for a video, but I feel like that's probably been done a lot. I am a person who loves literature. I love texts and different adaptations of things. I have read Phantom of the Opera and I love the musical. I'm familiar with the life story of Eva Perón, and I like that very inaccurate but extremely fun musical. I love Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which is just candy. And I have not been able to come around to watching JC Superstar. As a teenager, I used to get really defensive about Jesus Christ Superstar, and, you know, everything. I'm much more interested nowadays in learning the facts of how other people engage with faith and with the history of Christianity, even if it is wildly different from my own, especially if it's wildly different from my own. I think that cultural literacy is important. I think owning our history is important. Now, the fact that I have not seen JC Superstar is not a moral statement or a condemnation of anybody that enjoys it. I have heard the music. It absolutely does slap. I can never quite get past the fact that Jesus does not seem to like people, as a rule. The figure of Jesus does not understand his life's mission. He does not particularly love the people around him or feel motivated by love for them to carry out what he needs to do. It's a problem for me. I think it's unsupported by the text to characterize him that way, but I also think that it's unpleasant. It's a little personal. It's a person with whom I feel like I have a relationship, a person that has a very clear personality in my mind. And, you know, that's weird in the way that all religious belief is pretty weird. So this isn't a video about cosmic reality. This is a video about your shrub dryad. And I want to talk a little bit about what kind of personality I think Jesus had, and what he shows up as in my mind that would be so contrary to the way that he is depicted in this particular work of art, which it's important to remember is by non-believers who are grappling with the history of Christianity, which they absolutely have the right to do. To understand what I believe about who Jesus is, you are going to have to be in on some of what's going on with my faith in general. I've been raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which has some really specific and, as far as I know, pretty unique understanding about like the history of the universe. In LDS cosmology, there's a lot of emphasis on the time before we were all born here. And it's taught that we all were people before we had bodies, that we were spirit people, and that God had a body, and that God had a wife, who is also God, and we wanted to be like them and have cool physical bodies. We needed to get these kind of testy ones first that are flimsy and can't do too much damage, and after we're done test driving these, we'll get the good ones. Is, you know, sort of the Monty Python version of that. This is awkward. I should probably just allow this to be awkward. The idea is that all human people were actually super involved in the design and creation of the earth, that we got to help out, which is pretty cool. And Jesus Christ was the overseer of that, the guy that headed it up. And even now, We believe that the people who aren't currently on Earth are busy working to make sure everything goes smoothly, that the things that need to get carried out, which is mostly just that we come here and we get bodies and we eventually die. Like that's sort of the lowest common denominator experience for everybody. Everything else gets cleaned up by Gethsemane and Calvary. I kind of imagine heaven or the spirit world like the NASA headquarters in like Apollo 13 or another space movie where everyone's crowded around screens and they're typing and they're doing stuff, and pieces keep falling off Earth, and they're reacting and trying to help. And it's all a mess, but it's a good thing that the person that is in charge is in charge. In any case, when you look at things that way and have this idea that there is a bit less sharp of a hierarchy, that's not really a good way to say it, but that we are the same kind of thing that Jesus is. What jumps out very strongly when you read the narratives of his life in the New Testament is of a very compassionate person who has a sense of humor, who doesn't like everything that's happening to him, but who has been pretty powerfully educated about it by the parents that sent him, and does understand what he's doing and why. I guess you could say the personality that jumps out at me is of a person saying, wow, it is a lot harder to be a human than I thought it was going to be. Everything about this kind of makes more sense now that I've experienced it myself. You guys are all doing really great, except for you guys. You really need to shape up. You have completely lost the thread here. But the rest of you, man, just keep it up. You're doing great. This is hard, huh? We're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it together. And then he dies and goes back to headquarters and is full of compassion and knowledge because of his trip down here. And the rest of us get to try to share in that compassion and knowledge. What it means to have a personal relationship with Christ is not just about, do you feel warm fuzzy feelings when you say prayers at night, but it's about, do you try to imagine what it would be like to experience the lives of all of the people who have been on Earth, and to love them that much and understand why they make the choices they make, and to know that it's gonna be okay and that you don't need to freak out about the details and how it's going to be right, because it's covered. This is a bit sappier than I meant it to be. It's hard to be a person. And this figure in this story is very good at encapsulating that to me. And he is an aspirational figure. So that's why it doesn't strike me as very much fun to listen to incredible singers sing about something else entirely instead of that other really cool thing. But it's interesting too, right? This tension between trying to make something that is very sincere, to communicate your real feelings about something, and the desire to be understood and to have everybody like and appreciate what you're saying. The one kind of requires them to not be familiar with it because you're making a connection. That's the whole point of it. The other requires them to already agree with you so that they're there with you and they're ready to rock out. I don't know if it's possible to do both things at the same time. I'm really curious about that as an artist. If I can be really earnest without being cringy. And I don't know. Maybe the solution is to just make something completely wild and just pretend everybody's already on your side. This is going to be a bear to edit. Thank you for joining me today to hear me talk about the personality traits of a person who has been dead for 2,000 years who I believe I have met. Yeah, that's what I got. I hope you have a great week. Open your window and listen to some birds.